가장 내주용을 좀 써야지. 단 내주용을 쓰기 체마 써야지. 제가 내주용을 쓰기 체매 챙이들라 랑게 투모마인 베게 다기 실라손데기 뒤에 질라 때네. 한 개에 서도미르비 그래서 다음에 태위 미다바다 다음에 차라 가로 모습도 또 서도미르비 아니 파기기 신지기 캠바 써야지. 내주용을 쓰기 챙이를 해야지. 지다다 내주용을 쓰기 체마디 유가르도 거스네 차위 미다바도 거레스 네 가자 다음에 라바도 거레스 네 가자 다음에 참모도 거레스 어디 유디디레 해야지. Tiene que casar and the mitabe course, said, mitaba said, Gay on the good and Gay dinner, Gebache, and then Kiji Guadro again, and then the mitaba like it is, Casan Decor Sherwada.
Good morning. Last night then we looked at yogic direct valid cognizers, and we first looked at the definition, which as we have here at the bottom of page 6, is another knowing, exalted knowing, the continuum of an area that in dependence upon the stabilization, that is the union of calm abiding and meditative insight, and its uncommon empowering condition, newly and directly realizes either subtle impermanence or the coarse or subtle selflessness of persons. And after having looked at the definition, we looked at the three objects that are realized by a yogic direct valid cognizer. And we looked at the first in some detail, valid cognizers directly realizing subtle impermanence. When we spoke about impermanence, we said that there are two aspects that we need to engage in with our reflection. First, the momentary change of impermanent phenomena, so they change moment by moment, which is the subtle impermanence. And then secondly, that impermanent phenomena come about in dependence on causes and conditions. They are produced from causes and conditions. So when reflecting on impermanence, these two aspects need to be reflected on. It's momentary change and that it's produced in dependence on causes and conditions.
네 기지 교어줘봐 미다바지 니 도초디 가르스네 규단健康来 마되봐 아니 그 기지 교어기네 마되고 다가라 니 되게 여봐 되니게 예비 최대라 답발하고 그래야지.
Impermanent phenomena have these two characteristics. They change momentarily and they're produced in dependence on causes and conditions. What is opposite to impermanent phenomena are those which are permanent. They do not change momentarily. Whilst impermanent phenomena have these two characteristics, permanent phenomena have neither. For example, permanent phenomena such as uncompounded space, emptiness, or the selflessness of persons, these are permanent phenomena, thus they do not change momentarily, and they are not produced in dependence on causes and conditions.
Dumaji namgati tawari sambike samlote tusang ane kasa dame se tong tongbani se ti tawari sambe samlodi no chukayre ma khot ngone lot no chumain ba ngone ra chadigo lo dön lo 장보 차고로 가서 두만님 따바리 삼바나시 두만시 남가데 따바리 되어로와 동반이데 따바리 가사다며 따바리 선배 삼로디 삼바나시 가사다며 따바리 동이 따바리 이제 로노트 차고 말에 다디 멤베게 당 알아주게 지신라서 바당 아는 알아주 미 알아주 풍보 알아주 따바리 삼바이나 제 삼바이나 딜로디 노트 차고래
지신당
수기 풍부하던 뒤지게 취해 가르치네 대리지 미제 따바레 삼바이나 딘 따바진바이나 디 로로시레스 그래.
So the thought, the concept that uncompounded space, emptiness, selflessness of persons, these are permanent, This is a correct way of thinking. This is an unmistaken way of thinking. It is not a mistaken way of thinking because emptiness is permanent. Selflessness of persons is permanent. Uncompounded space is permanent. But on the other hand, should we think of fauna, our aggregates or the aggregates, and all impermanent phenomena, all compounded phenomena, should we think that they are permanent, then this would be a wrong consciousness. So if we were to relate to anything that is impermanent as if it were permanent, that would be a wrong consciousness.
Korongi kibigi gyujine kibigi jebu de la yaga ji hu mare duan ma do lo jie de le lo dua ma do yaga ji tu mare ji le da zin yi gyujine jie ba ne de la cha da ran hong cha de lo duan ma de ji ma lo yaga ji tu mare ji le ji san ko gyu ho ran ya go me ba san di jebu de ya go hu mare ma do tuan do re kare ne gyu de ya go xue ba na di jebu de nyu jie de ya go jie jebu de ya go xiong go le gyu de ya go me ba na 되네 뉴디에 야고기 마도 되네 제부디에 야고용 두고 말아 진짜 뉴디 야고용은 제부디에 야고용 거래 뉴 야고면은 제부디에 야고용 거 바로 디나시고 론 다신 가사랑 다와지면 다신 가사 다도 주버지면 다진 람도 콜로 노추 로로셰레 제가 그런 게 예수 기회 로디게 차상 로 야가지 기회 말아 로 두가지 마도
So therefore, a person being impermanent comes about independent on causes and conditions. But relating to the person as being permanent, thinking that the person is permanent, having this grasping at a person as being permanent, is a wrong consciousness. Because one is relating to this impermanent phenomena as if it doesn't change momentarily, as if it isn't produced independence on causes and conditions. So from a wrong consciousness, only unwanted results come, in particular the various afflicted minds. We can understand this that from if a cause is a poor cause, a bad cause, then from such a cause only undesirable results will follow. So if the cause is a wrong consciousness, such as grasping at something that is impermanent as being permanent, in particular in this case the person, then from that only unwanted results will follow. From this wrong consciousness, this mistaken perception, only unwanted results will follow.
제가 되네 장아 주기 미다바 삼다야데다 장아 주 소소라라 미 삼다베네 미다바제 삼다야디 가라 당고스네 마 주기에 디기 규단 견래 되네 기고를 개와다 개와 삼다야다 다 규단 견래 되네 개와서 소소라라 아니 요주요 봐 아니 삼다야데 기지기지 요주요 봐 아니 지 대안에 남균이 교화전에 가zam질이야 소소 아니 다데 수부디 파 도하지 매바차지 니시월에 세야지 차야다 데니게 삼다디 소소라라레 미비 미다바 삼다 차거와.
And the way that we need to reflect on impermanence is to reflect on those two aspects. So we bring to mind impermanent phenomena such as the person, ourselves, and we think about the person being impermanent due to fulfilling those two characteristics. The person changes momentarily, and secondly, the person is produced in dependence on causes and conditions. Therefore, not only having been produced in dependence on causes and conditions means that the person is impermanent. Therefore, the person will there's these aggregates that change momentarily leads to this life ceasing. This life will end. This opportunity will end. So this is how we can introduce our meditation on the impermanence of this life.
Tadi sosorarang la samtaje denegi mitaba samtang kubigi gymse rojda ani ji pando khariyore la baina 디기 판도 가린 거라서는 나라서 시내 시도가 나가 수부도 마 도로 나 님이 시에 이 도야 이머로 와다 삼다나레 마다나레 님이 매바 차로 거와 제가 단 님이 매바 차로도 안에 마오바나 자오기네 매바 차기에 비해서는 자오기네 매바 차기고 말해 개와 치마 좋고 거라다 제가 치마 좋고 그래 치마 도도 치마 도서 될랑 한쪽에 된조서야 당 한조서야 디니마도 줘서요 말이야. 안에 안조를 끼고래. 안에 된조를 끼고래. 제가 디니마도 줘서 매반장 아주 디하고 그래. 마음반에 아주 신에 마음반에 계산이 가고 끼거든. 안에 안조를 끼고래. 안에 된조를 끼고래서 디니다 하고 왔지. 디 아주 디 미타바 삼다도 디니다 자주 지고래. 제가 디니다 자주 지어도 안에 된조를 끼봐들라 깨봐야 하는 가능성도 다된가다 하다 미 깨와렘바데 된조시고래. 제가 단야도 둔조다 녀와다 이다 된데 여러서 대술을 깨와는 안조시고래. 다 대술을 깨와는 가제나 깔래카다 누가 준 거래. 다 된조를 깨와나 하는 아주 가나 디기 망하는 거래. 제가 깔래 강아 충하는 거래. 디네 인자 조설을 니마도 매와서 디니데 가서 담가지고 마음반에 디조사 디니데 제가 담가져서 어당 시도나 조사 디니요래 제가 디니요 봐서 디니 담가체네 된돌게 딜 유가르사고 개와 두고 그래서 제가 안돌게 가리키고 그래서 디바제네 안돌키고 그래 제가 디바데 빵고 그래 제가 디바데 매바 슉충다 매바 쇠바 있나 데 마음반에 안돌키 말해 제가 이 개와를 사바 있나 마음반에 된돌게 두고 그래서 온 디니기 계생이의 통제네 디 조야기 람가니디 유가를 때리 연구해 봐 하고 봤지 디 하고도 저기 게셔 줘야 돼 자고 세상에서 믿어봐 삼당도 소소라라 믿어봐 삼당도 마오바네 계세디 디데 세상에 데네도 디 녀려야 지금 맛이 녀려야 세상 지지를 마소는 된줄게 규사지 지지 제고 준비 지지 제에게 개발해야다.
When mentioning the meditation on death or the impermanence of this life, it's imperative that we understand very clearly why this is such an important meditation. Because generally in the world, if we hear about the need to think about death, this repulses us. It's something we aren't naturally encouraged to think about. But there's a significant benefit to this meditation. And that is that it will lead to a transformative impact on ourselves. So the reflection starts out with coming to gain great certainty that we will die. So this is something that is intellectually accepted by almost everyone. But this we need to come to see with vivid clarity. And thereafter we think to ourselves, so I'm certain that this life will come to an end. And then what happens? It's not that our continuum ceases and our experiences end. A new rebirth, a reincarnation is immediately attained. And that rebirth is only going to be in one of two directions. We will either gain another good rebirth in a happy migration like we have in this life as a human or as a god, or we may fall into the lower realms. The rebirth such as an animal or a spirit, or in the hell realms. So amongst these various realms of rebirth, what differentiates them is the amount of happiness that can be experienced there, as well as the amount of suffering that is experienced there. So it's happiness and the amount of happiness and suffering that differentiates these realms. And it's only within these two directions, a happy migration or a suffering migration, that one will take rebirth. So this reflection on impermanence, you remember, had these two components. Impermanent phenomena change momentarily, so therefore we can see that this life we have, this is impermanent, and therefore it changes, therefore it will end. And the second component is that it comes about in dependence on causes. This life we have came about in dependence on causes, so too will our future, each and every future life. And then we think about, so what are the causes for our next rebirths? If we want to have a good rebirth, what are those causes? If we're wanting to avoid the suffering rebirth, what are those causes? So here this meditation now has led us to gain certainty that this life will end, and that this life will therefore will be followed by another rebirth. And here now we're coming to gain clarity on what are the causes that we need to emphasize on developing, and what are those that we need to ensure we don't accumulate. So this meditation then, why it has such a transformative impact on us, is it gives us the strength of mind that we require to discipline ourselves, to discipline our way of thinking, to ensure that our mind is always directed towards virtue. And when it goes in the direction of non-virtue, we have the inner strength, the commitment to want to turn away from that and remain with the mind focused on virtue.
Dinigi Midava Samtang, Dini, and a Gigi Meva Chayama, Midava Samatavane, Dinigi Kusaya delia, Sim Lea Chargurma. She said Midava Savana, do you Dinichi mother Jobo Gidi, she in Evayama, that didn't. Dendrole ke gudima ya wo samatun sawu sembege samne ke di saagi dumba di shukchele ya di gore jida ngandol ke gudi oda daden nga jogo mewa masoba ina and ma ba ne de gyuwa chinje shi so ma ina and mewa ma chawaje mewa sematu be ne mashini le mewa sematu be ne ngandol ke nyanga yora samje and dele inza ko ngandol ke gudi pa ya le ya and jogo pa ya ge Dumbadi to your shuche, Yonaga, Dondala, de Mitabico, some died Gimsentida.
This reflection then on the impermanence of this life has three aspects. We've mentioned two. So the one is that the certainty of death, the one that hasn't been mentioned is the uncertainty of the time of death. So whether we engage in this meditation or not, this situation doesn't change. We will still die, and the time of our death, the manner of our death remains uncertain and unknown. But the result of those two aspects of the meditation is the third part of this meditation. We give rise to this transformative way of thinking that I need to ensure I accumulate virtue and avoid non-virtue. When we come to this conclusion, and it arises with us in a way that does actually transform us, when it has that strength and that stability, this means we see this transformative impact within us. We start to experience that result that our mind is on virtue, and therefore our mind is more joyous. Our mind is now less inclined to go to non-virtue, and when it does, we notice and bring it back. And this too brings joy to us. So the result of this meditation is that we accumulate virtue and we avoid non-virtue. And this has the impact on us that we are experiencing greater joy because we are seeing, I am accumulating the causes that will lead to a good rebirth. I see this transformation within myself. I also see that my mind is not going in a negative direction as it used to. I see this transformation in myself. I see what I can do. Hence the resulting joy.
Pa lo jadaman le du kangpa de chasang meba cha tu guri se ki ko tu su tu den xie ba jue ba ina tang zo kangpa de nimere ning ru ru ba za lo ji de lo ni de lo xi ju lo song ju ngop ju du ju dun ju si de kangpa de meba cha le ta ni ru ru ba da ji kangpa de meba cha so ba na zo de de sa chi kangpa ku ji ku go le je sa da kangpa xian da ka ni yo ba je sa jia be zo ba sa jia ane chigi koyo zoba shu yue tiga kangpa gyu yue tiga busin da, jie da, dine ganga mungo yue tiga saji chikche, kangpa yue si chikche. Da pacho dile xingna, be xingbe, medo dongra da, chik nying chigo shu yue wache, ane delia, ane chigi koya kagu simbu, ane chigi tungen tige yagu, zangma, saji zangma, dine ki kangpa nying chigo yue wache. Da kangpa nyi damga yore ngā rō liya, da tinga zi kāngsi nyingba di meba chado drosa di la kangpa nyi damga yore. Chisa da ngā rō liya di chidu, ngā rō samta di, so sui kangpa di meha dhūgu liya sampe, sang mātā shāba ina, kangpa di yaga di la drosa di ki tabshi di, dhoya ki tablam di, mui saya di, raya ki nyoya ki kangpa ki nyoya ki mui di diri chigo sa go ma re. Karasana ko, kangpa di dipchi kyun shio ke samu khurang tang go ma rwa. Chisa, da dine sam tawa ina, 오뎅이 강바도 님이 로자타말로 조르고 되는가 샹달 뿌고 거래 지상 지도 다 로디네 이슈 조사샤 다 가제도 로디 님이 로레 뒤서 타냐냐 로도 와 지상 다 베니 뒤서디 마소 파라딜량아 강바 야가디 뉘야딜야 탑시지 딩우디 사고도 선비게 삼다 베제 장제 무이 사샤바이나 아니 무이데 사 강바 사 닝지버 뉘야게 무이데 사 사바이나 가바게디 님버데게디 딥네 샘제요 말가서는 디네 뿌여지나 강바 사디 야가지날 조투에 제가 샘제가요 말 제가 디 강바 닝버 디기 지도그래다 디네지 조고를 샘비 삼매 야네 야도 따야디 가르켜버 용고서는 강바 사바 야보도 뉘야야 안 데리지야라 샘지 듬바디 슈크셔 조고 데 듬바 슈크셔 데리지야바이나 마오바나 강바 닝버 딥소반 강바 사바데라 보초조레 강아 주네요 말로 어디나징아 또 수보디 강바 닝 강바다 직바래 강바다 직바래 제상 한도 닝바 수보디 강바 닝바 둘둘둘 닝바 차르고래 제상 데니 삼다제 마오바다 메바 차서 닝바 차르도 마오바다 야고 주야게 된다라 규디 사샤바나 베지체바나 되네고 이시에게 삼다 되는 미다와 삼다는 샘제 균이야마 강아스카이마 샘 오당아 시우스나 가야마 깨마 침마들 야고지 링그리에 샘비게 샘려려 진 되시고 샘기고지 되시고 진짜 되네게 삼다마도 보이나 되네게 깨와 침마 야고에 디기 주에다 난돌에 디바사야디 빵베델에 랑도르 침마도 보이나 되네 미다베고 삼다네 판도스 가야 말에 제가 내려 미다보고 삼마다마 샤샤네 대한 남면 샤네 깁쇼르데
May ensure that this is understood very clearly. We can think of your current situation. Everyone here lives in a home. That home is an impermanent phenomenon, so it will degenerate. It changes momentarily. It was, of course, produced in dependence on causes and conditions, so it will degenerate. And whether you think about your home as being impermanent or not, it makes no difference to the home in the sense that it remains impermanent and it ages and it will fall apart. So whether you think about it or not has no impact on the deterioration or the degeneration of your home. It will do so because it in its nature is impermanent. On the other hand though, should you be aware that this home is impermanent, it is going to start to fall apart. I am going to need to move at one point. I'm going to need to move somewhere else at one point. Gaining certainty of that knowledge gives one some power, some strength of mind. Knowing that one has to move, one then starts to plan. Where would I like to move to? Would I like to move to an environment that is beautiful with a pleasant climate, perhaps with a lovely view, with nature around me? Or, well, any old place would do, maybe if I end up in a swamp and the weather is no good and there are loads of biting insects. Those are the two options, somewhere really pleasant, somewhere not so pleasant. And then seeing what those options are, we think, so what are the causes? Well, somewhere beautiful and pleasant is probably going to cost a whole lot more than somewhere not. So therefore, I have to accumulate those kinds of causes. It may take longer to find such a home, so I'd better start looking. It will probably cost a lot more, so I really need to start saving. And in this way, we can make a good plan. We're gaining knowledge, and this knowledge gives us strength of mind. And this analogy we liken exactly to the situation that we find ourselves now in terms of this life. This body is often referred to as a storehouse for our consciousness. This is where our consciousness of this life resides. At one point, this body, being impermanent, will cease, and we will need to take a new body. And where do we want that body to be? Or where do we want that to be? Somewhere pleasant, a happy migration, somewhere unpleasant, a suffering migration. The answer is clear. So with this knowledge now, we have this power through this knowledge to then investigate what are the causes. What are the causes that lead to this desired result? What are the causes that lead to the undesired result? And with this knowledge then leads to a strength of mind. I know what I need to do. I have knowledge. I have power. This is something that I have some control over. And therefore, we can accumulate the relevant causes.
안 소소리 미다와 삼다데 김센티네시 다 소소 마음바지 현다기 현라 미시 미다와 삼다 베네 메도로다 베네 지게 자라 닝제고 자라 야고로 직 통원도 안쪽이 델리아 지금 남사 베네 메도야고 슈치어베네 델리아 미시 통원도 아주 메도데 삼다 메도데 기디나 규어기는 줘야 메디게 닝제고시 뒤겨바로 삼다바나 메도데 따와 삼다고 그래 제가 델라 규어 데니기 규어기는 줘야 닝제고 슈치 삼다도 안 델리아 안쪽이 메도델레야 차바제기 닝가 용어로 진짜 되는 장아 메도니 저 휴시 통보에는 될 남산 파 메도델이야 다들 이거 나야 되는 저 투대 이내고 유단 진실을 되는 게 말했어 진짜 그 라와시오 말 진짜 기지기지 유어주고 그래 진짜 메도데 길리길리 닝바 차로 그래 그러니까 좀 질이야 그 매와 차로 그래 진짜 나중에 저 난고라데 이나 길리 유어주고 다기 닝바 차로 때 템포스요 말에 삼바타마이나 메도딜레 미비게 차바게디 슝슝주고 차바게 가투고 그래 엔디나싱아 저기 삼다시라 마싱베나 미산달에 잘라야 오셔도 모자로 지나 강바로 통해도 지금 닝지오쇼 지구로 통해도 맞아 남상 아줄래 얘기 차바게 닝하요 오다 미소 강법에 야고도와 첨보슈 야보 닝제오 슈도 당하나 되네 요 말에 선배야 학교 오래셔 선배기 되네 토네 아까가 제게 용시방 아주 용시고래 진짜 되네 갑려야 되네게 잘라다 지 강반이 주주보 통하는데 삼든 다돼서 지디 네 강바디게 규다게 망고 깔래 망고잖아 sögöres 진짜 네 되네 차와라야 변조 사야다 유견 깔래 망고 제발했어 진짜 대수이나 유어로 니미지 것 닝바 차야다 안 딥줘야다 촐라줘야 여러와스 진짜 답을 템부스카야 말레스 안 데니기 촐라줘디 갑라 유어로 닝바셔디 답을 미딜이야 셈제까지 여레스 진짜 디돈 달이야 소교타야도 천타야라 냐야리야 강아 같이 여레스 진짜 데니기 템부스카야 민도와스베 데네 삼타베네 야딜이야 아니 차바게야지 슈충줘야다 옹아 교레샤 세드마 바슈미야디 마야야게 차바용 거다디
So hopefully now it's clear the purpose of engaging in the meditation on death and impermanence, which is to give us a great strength of mind that leads to us with ever greater ease, applying ourselves to virtue, turning away from non-virtue, and thereby living a meaningful life. But the reflection on impermanence shouldn't be engaged just with the objects being ourselves. We, of course, should relate it to all impermanent phenomena. So if we take the objects that are easy to understand, if we think of a beautiful flower, so we see a beautiful flower, and immediately we grasp at it with this view of permanence, wanting it to remain, wanting this beauty that we are experiencing and the joy that comes from this to always be experienced. And then when the flower naturally withers and dies, then there's some sadness, because what we had grasped as with this hope of it lasting, of course isn't fulfilled. Whereas if we have reflected well, and as we observe phenomena, knowing that they are impermanent, therefore, we will know that it has these two characteristics. It changes momentarily, so therefore no surprise comes when it changes. Secondly, we understand that it's come about in dependence on causes and conditions. And when this understanding has been developed so it's quite natural within us, when we see something such as the beautiful flower, we'll understand it more in accordance with reality, and therefore the arisal of attachment is much weaker. The arisal of afflictions in relation to this object is much less. We'll take another example that's easy to understand. If we see desirable possessions that others have, and the position we're now in is naturally attachment arises towards those possessions. We would like to have those, and perhaps also jealousy towards that person, thinking, oh, it's not fair, they have all these things that I wish I had and I don't, and I'll probably never be able to have these. And yeah, our mind now gets quite impacted And this is because we're not relating to these objects with wisdom. We're not relating to them in terms of how they really exist. We're grasping at them as being permanent. We're forgetting that they momentarily change. The way we observe them now is not how they were and it's not how they will be. They change. Moreover, they've come about in dependence on causes and conditions. And if these are things of great value or expensive, then that money that was required to buy them was created through a lot of hard work, perhaps some sacrifices, and so forth. And then when you start to think about it in this way, it starts not to be so desirable anymore. Our attachment for the object starts to fade. Any feeling of inadequacy that we had, this also starts to fade. So in other words, the more we understand impermanence, and these two aspects of momentary change, and that it comes about in dependence on causes and conditions, the less we'll grasp at impermanent phenomena as being permanent. And as this grasping at permanence, this wrong consciousness weakens, then the resulting afflictions that come from this wrong consciousness will also weaken.
never duksha some duksha khoya yungorwa sida denegi michenda che susule khoro savene tanga ju samta de kalya odati ko khoro sa de gyudan kinchila antene kholoya jingma jiba thone jikji khoro saware sambi gyudan kinchila tene kewale sida ko khoro dia gyogine do me de takwa de mare ko kiji gyoro 지선 gyoro 지선 델야 gy와타야야 안주기 아니 간스 gy와탄 거라스네 또 소소게 드는 콜이야 콘로된 바이 그 콘로도 슈처 줘야 다지 슈처 주고 대지 슈충주나 슈처 줘야 다 띠부르 차야 돼 내가 근데 되네서 거기 콘로디야 유월 미다 바래 진짜 템부스카요 말 이제 되네 시야요 콘로 시야요레스 진짜 되네 가지고 바 잠제를 제바이나 그 콘로디 시주고 그래서 매바 차기 그래서 되네 삼다바이나 저기 파쇼리아 콘로 말아야기 캡을 연구래. 제가 파주 미지 콘을 라통에 남산 될이야. 미다버게 삼다 두기나 미다버 거 점바 제토에 삼다 두기나 먼저 파려야 콘로 말아야기 캡을 연구래. 제가 되네서 미다버 삼다 저 코코라 통에도 수다 다디니 총나 요기네 저에 게디나 디네바로 되네게 콘로 저 여바로 삼다베나 띵하는 주게 될이야. 파레 컨트롤하다 내가 셈마기와 차 용거래 그래서 되네서 파주기 미 네버킹으로 치다 컨트롤하시 통외네 소소라는 게 될이야 미다베게 그 컨트롤다 미델이야 미다베 삼다야다 유대 견을 때바래 지단 유어도 여바래 따바띠부 여마래 삼다마나 나는 저기 컨트롤 맞게 돼 개발 용거래 돼
Having reflected on the impermanence of ourselves, we've reflected on the impermanence of external phenomena. We should also look at, then move then to subtler phenomena than flowers and worldly possessions, material possessions. Then we think of situations that we find difficult. So let's say someone is angry with us, someone verbally attacks us, criticizes us. If we've reflected well on impermanence, then immediately, because of our meditation or our habituation or our familiarity, those synonyms with meditation, because of that, our understanding, our realization of impermanence will naturally appear to us, will naturally arise to us. And we'll understand that this person before us, like ourselves, are impermanent. The affliction that is now dominant within them, perhaps it's anger, perhaps it's an attitude of arrogance, an attitude belittling, looking down on us. Whatever it is, that too is impermanent, which means changes momentarily. Therefore, they are not that affliction. That is not a permanent characteristic of their nature. Because it changes, it's not permanent, it changes momentarily. Moreover, it came about independent on causes and conditions. A very wide variety of causes and conditions. Not necessarily what we've been accused of having done, not just that, but a wide variety of causes and conditions. When that arises in us spontaneously, it has an immediate impact on our mind, in that our mind stays open and spacious. We're not taking what is being said to us as personal, because we understand it's about what's happening in a continuum of someone else. Moreover, we're not identifying that person as that afflicted mind, as that mind of anger. We are seeing that that is something that has just arisen and will pass. And it has arisen due to a wide variety of causes and conditions, the vast majority have nothing to do with myself or directly with myself. So here, now the position we find ourselves in is before us is a deeply afflicted person in that moment, a person who in that moment is suffering gravely. But we ourselves, our mind is spacious, our mind is calm. We are not taking it personally, and therefore we are not responding defensively. And due to our response being calm and spacious, we have a calming impact on that suffering person. So in this way, through our reflections on impermanence, we are able not only to have a beneficial impact on ourselves, but we are able to have a beneficial impact on beings who are suffering greatly. We've now looked at some of the benefits and reflect on the meditation on impermanence that should be done in relation to the impermanence of aggregates, the impermanence of material goods, impermanence of ways of thinking or minds or in speech. All of these impermanent phenomena, we reflect on their impermanent nature, and it has these great benefits.
natural chama sechuarwa jisan da gasa dame rabo to be najung sum chama sladu and the gasa dame raba seji ganachile sung legorasna gasa dame tela jisan gasa dame del chama da raba se ni yongore jisan gasa dame raba labdu raba di dashi rangwa jingi rubige dongbige dongbe dame batla dashi rangwa jin rubige da dongba dela dongbe dongni dela So
returning to our text now, we've been looking at the yogic direct valid cognizers, and we see that a yogic direct valid cognizer, that consciousness realizes three objects, and we've now looked at the first object, that of impermanence. So let's now look at the second object of a yogic direct valid cognizer. And we see here yogic direct valid cognizers directly realizing the coarse selflessness of persons. So what is meant then by the coarse selflessness of persons that is realized by a yogic direct valid cognizer? When the yogic direct valid cognizer realizes the coarse selflessness of persons, it realizes that the self is empty of being, permanent, unitary or single, and independent. So the core selflessness of persons is the self being empty of being permanent, unitary, and independent.
So kewa ngama yore, kasa de kewa chima yore, nga rakpa samtambane, pu chunshung du xe, tade, ane dharma, dine gengo se, ko chashe mango yore, chisa chashe gyuni medyo ken, ane jira jikdi rebesen denya mares, kansa telya, kechi ngama da, chima da, gyunda, ane mango chashe yore, ane chashe megen jikbu chi, jikbu jira jikdi rebesen denya mares, dana, rāngwā rēbēs, rāngwā mā rēs, kāsū gyūdān kīn lē tūgō rēs, gyūdān kīn lā mā tūbī kāsā chūyā mā rēs. Chīsā rāngwā yīnā gyūdān kīn lā mā tūbī kāsā chūyā na kāsā dē rāngwā chākō rēs. Chīsā dē kāsā dē gyūdān kīn lā mā tūbā mā rē, kāsā dē gyūdān kīn lē tūbā rē. Chīsā gyūdān kīn lā mā tūbī rāngwā dē yā mā rē. Tēne chāshē lā mā tūbī jirā chīk dē yā mā rē. Tā nē kāsā wā kīchī gyūwā mē tūyā tāqbā dē yā mā rē. Chīsā kāsā dē gyūgī lā mā tūbī kē rāngwā yā mā rē, kīchī kīchī mīchī pē tāpā yā mā rē, chāshē lā mā tūbī jīgbū yā mā rē, dī sūm kī tōngā rē sō rē, kā sō rē, jīgbū yā mā rē. Chīsā mē pāñcā kānsā dī tāk chū rāngwā chī yā mā rūpā lā wā rē. Tāk chū rāngwā chī rūpā lā nā gyūgī lā mā tūbī kē rāngwā wā chē. Chāshē yā mē tū kē jīgbū rāngwā yā mā chī, kīchī kīchī gyūwā mē tā tāpā rō chāpa kāsā dī sūṅgī ngō drūp tūpa yinā kāsā tāchū rāngwā chī yu drūpa hāla kōrē. Chēsā kāsā dī sūṅgī ngō drūpa dī yuwa mā rē, mē bānsā kāsā dī tāchū rāngwā chī yu mā drūpa rē sī kōrē.
So let's look at these three terms, the first being permanent, the second being unitary or single, and the third being independent. What the yogi is trying to realize here is that the self is empty of these three characteristics, or does not possess these three characteristics. It's void of these three characteristics. So what is meant of these three? So the first one, permanent. So we've been speaking about the meaning of permanent and impermanent. Something that is impermanent means it changes momentarily. Something that's permanent does not change momentarily. So here the reflection is to see that the self is empty of being permanent because it does change momentarily. The second characteristic then, that of unitary or single, is that the self is not singular in the sense of, if it were singular, it would have no parts. So we come to reflect that the self does have parts, and therefore is empty of being unitary or empty of being single. And then we can think of parts in many ways. So there's the person of the past life, or the present life, or the future life. So those are parts. It's dependent on many parts, such as a form aggregate, a continuum. It's dependent on moments of change. The self of the earlier in the life, of later in this life, of right now. And then, of course, one can divide that up into far subtler parts or moments of time. So in this way, one comes to reflect that the self is not unitary. The self is empty of being single. It's empty of being unitary. So that's the second characteristic. And then the third is that of being independent. So here one reflects on the self as not being independent, of being void or empty of this characteristic of being independent, and rather come to see that the self is dependent. And here dependent refers to causes and conditions. So the self depends on causes and conditions. Realizing that, one realizes the self is not independent, but is rather dependent on causes and conditions. So this second characteristic, that of unitary, relates to coming to realize that the self is dependent on parts. The third characteristic, independence, refers to coming to realize that the self is dependent on causes and conditions. So there's two types of dependency. That first characteristic, again, permanent, is to realize that the self is impermanent because it changes momentarily. So that's the explanation of these three characteristics of the core selflessness of persons, realizing that the self is empty of being permanent, unitary, and independent.
Dinege, Dashi Rangwa Jing to be Tomba Ladu, Gansa, Dashi Rangwa Jing to be Tomba Ladu, the Gansa Time Rabache, Tomba Ladu, Gukin Lama to be Rangwa, and Kiji Guama to be, and the Taboata, and Chashela, Kijing, Chashela Matubet, Chirachi, in the Sumgo Sobigi, Soba Chik to do Vena, and Dashi Rangwa Jing Dubare. Chizan Tangazo Gansaro now do. Tito is Nango and Arzolia. Person Gansadi, Narzo sometime Casania Mario, but the Dinia Chipitia, who is now shall go, shall do into music, but you are in a dream and a top out of Nangore. And then that kitchen is Shashila Mato was so Chiburu Nangore, then Chibua Nangore. Then you get a matter of Rawa, you think Rawa was Nangore, Chizana was a Rawa Nangore, Razolea, Kansa, Tachi, Rawatching you to be Nangore. Now I'm asking her to do some Zimbaina, Tachi Rawatching you to be Zimbas or did Zimbadi Lolosheda. Did Zimbi Loloshe in the Dinan to get a day, Lorig Duna share till Loshe Sachagore. It's not the Zimbilo de Loshe, the Delet, Lohoron no tree in the Delatin and Arzulia. Garigres in Chabata, and a contra, Yomopa Yagi, Gushu, Teletin, Key, just a disa, di Lodi, Mazumeva Sugure. That di Meva Suela, Canis Meva Sugure, Lana, that di Gasa, di, and the Tashiranwaji, Majuba, Trubic, Toma, the Majuba Tores, Majuba Tobaina, and the Juba Zimbulu, the Meva Sugures, Majuba Tores.
When the meditator gains a realization that the self is empty or void or lacks permanence, unitary nature and independence, then they will have realized that the self does change momentarily. It is dependent on parts. It is dependent on causes. And that realization is a realization of the, of course, selflessness of persons. If we think about these three characteristics of a self, of the self being permanent, unitary, and independent, this is how the self naturally appears to us. The self naturally appears to us as being permanent in that we naturally think of the self as the self of yesterday, the self of today, as being exactly the same, as being permanent. Similarly, we don't naturally relate to the self as being dependent on its parts, and therefore we relate to it as being unitary. And we don't naturally relate to the self as being dependent on causes and conditions, and therefore we relate to it as being independent. And therefore, when with the self appearing to us as permanent, unitary, and independent, we grasp at it as such, or another way to translate grasp is we fixate at the self as being permanent, unitary, and independent. And this is a wrong consciousness in the sevenfold division of Lorig. The seventh one, we'll come to later in detail, is wrong consciousness. And this wrong consciousness, which grasps at the self as existing as permanent, unitary, and independent, leads to the arisal of afflictive minds. So therefore, through engaging in this meditation, investigating to see how the self appears to us, seeing that it appears as being permanent, unitary, and independent, and then investigating whether it exists in this way, and coming to realize that it doesn't, we then come to this coarse realization we come to this realization of the core selflessness of persons, and that serves to reduce this grasping at the self as existing in this way, and thereby reduce the strength of the resulting afflictions from this. So that is the purpose of this meditation.
And that that day to on to get some dachi, Jebache, Yanni, and some dachi, Doho, Chagore. Just at the end, and to get Gaza said, the she Mitawa some Nani Kichi, you are to go about some dieta. The Nigi Digalia Gaza said, Kijing Ama, the Chima, the Yoba Penanga, Sosura, something, said that Nadinishri, the Ding Kiamang, Kiwam, Shakijing among us sometimes, Siaya, some Puchus, I make it Puchusura sometime. Di Kijing Amasa, the Amitronala Yova sometime. Dia sometimes Gasam and Jige Amitronala Dambo Chabi, Capis do sometime. Those Chesa, Nazuke Casa, said the Kijing, Kijing Mambo chair, eating Kijing green twin the lady Gajimato, Kijing Namada, Chima Chai made again, Casa said in the Mindua Sempege, and some diary. Then Chashela, Kijing, Nachi, Chasham, will do to come out, Kijing, Nachi, Chashel, Matuba, Casa says out in the Mindu, Chesanga, now and I say, in a Chasham, Chibu, not to get the Lord in no tree, some now. And they are Chick Casa said, Good and Kinchela Tugumo, Casa or Rahon, you name into Chesa, Good and Kinla to Gudi Yakushuba and the Penal to get down on the Gudi Yakushuba. And then I was missing to Ada. Gudi Yawamena, and then Miss Tono Chad. I just want to Gudi Rally, you got say Yawavena, Jehudi Yakachi. Did Bene, Subudi sometimes, I mean, Maggie Nelia, and then Gudi Yakushuvena, and then I had to give in a Subudi Yaka, down on the time, setting out Chagorova, and they didn't give you Maggie and then Gudi Yawamena. And give you a couple of Subuti, so that say Tunga, teacher, they will like I said, there are one union who Gula Tubaresha, who Yadu, the Gula Tuba, Gula Tuba, Gula Matuba, Rawan, the Niki Yadu Chai, Zaukin, Mindus and Big, those Java Chedu, and Rawan, Zimbic Loti, and the Shunuba Chun Chakore, the name Zangajugi, Gasa said that, Kichi Jiba, Metawaresha, Chashela Tubaresha Mato, Chashe Kalamato, Jibo de Rimidu, Gudan Kiela Tuba Mato, Gudamatu, Rawan, in the Mindu, and Big, the nigger some dieting as you Mitaba, Rapa, some data di Chagore, as a Mitaba was like Azadem Rapa, some data.
The way then to meditate on the core selflessness of persons is to, firstly, the meditation, as with all topics, needs to be done repeatedly over a sustained period for the realization to progress to subtler levels, and for the realization to have a transformative effect on oneself. So in this meditation, one meditates sequentially on these three aspects: permanence, unitary, and independent. And one meditates first on the first one, being permanent, seeing how we have this way of relating to the self, or we have this feeling that the self is permanent. And as was mentioned before, that we feel that the self of today, the self of yesterday, of last year, and of tomorrow, it's kind of the same self. We have this feeling of permanence about ourselves. We need to rather reflect, though, that the self is impermanent and therefore does change momentarily. So that's the first step of the meditation, is reflecting on permanence. The second is the aspect of being singular or unitary. So here we need to reflect on so this means that the self appears to us as not being dependent on parts. So we need to reflect then here on how the self is dependent on parts. So the self, if we think over the expanse of lifetimes, where there has been a progression from a past lifetime to a present lifetime, and that will continue to a future lifetime. These are all parts. There's this continuity that goes from lifetime to lifetime, but they are parts. The part that's referred to as the previous life, and the part that's the life previous to that, the part that is this life, the part that will be a future life. So there is this continuity of parts, and within each part are many subparts. So in this life, we are now all adults. Before this, we were growing up when we were perhaps still at home and we were growing. Before that, we were young toddlers. Before that, we were an infant. So these are all parts. And before that, we were in the womb. And before we even entered the womb, there was the part where we were in the intermediate state. So there's this sequence of parts that this life, that this person is dependent on. It's just a continuity, and this continuity has parts. And we've spoken about parts of past and future lives, parts within a life, and then one can break that down to subtler moments of even the part that is this moment, this day, has its own divisions. And we can keep dividing into subtler parts. And therefore we come to see, we've already come to realize that the person cannot be permanent, but is impermanent. And now we see that the person is not independent of parts, but dependent on parts. All these parts are required for there to be a person. So therefore the person is dependent on parts. The third aspect is that of being independent. Being independent means that the person appears to us as not being dependent on causes and conditions. So here we need to reflect then on the causes and conditions that the person is dependent on. And here, for a result to come about, comes about in dependence on causes. So if for us to live a long and healthy life, that is a result. It comes about in dependence on many causes. And if those causes aren't accumulated, a long and healthy life cannot be achieved. And if we think about it in a coarse way, we know that when we were young and we were completely dependent on the kindness of others, if those causes and conditions were not achieved then, we would have long since died by now. So that's a very coarse way to think about the causes and conditions that the person is dependent on. But through reflecting on this at ever subtler levels, we'll come to a subtler understanding that the self is not independent of causes and conditions, but is dependent. And as one then comes to realize that the self is void or empty of being permanent, of being unitary, of being independent, one's grasping at the self as being so weakens. The grasping at permanence weakens. And therefore, in dependence on this grasping weakening, the resulting afflictions also weaken in the frequency of arisal, weaken in their strength, weaken in their duration. And this starts as we gain even the coarser realizations of this meditation, and will continue to grow in strength as our realization grows in profundity.
Bendigo Tangpo, how Jeba Chish Tangpo, how Gondi, Samadi, Dobuloti, Samara, to kissing Jebana, Samasagore, Samari. The need to be kitchen, but Yishis Charugua. Then they get Tangpo to be Samadi and Samada, to kissing Monsum Dai, Casore, Lorig Session, and Monsum Jeba Sigurwa. Tizadina de Carrella and Jeba Chagor Tangpo. Mitapa Tangpo, Mitapa Tangpo, to be how and Samadi, Jeba Segore. Gaza Dame Rabada, Gaza Dame Tamoti, Jeba Tangpo, how and Samadi, Jeba Segore, Jebare, Topare. Desuya, Gumgu, Gazam Gilian, and Zuke, Kasan Sheba Nashi, Monsum or Charity, then Najung was some Chason. Tis a Dambo, Mitaba, Topic, Najung was some Chayala, Dambo Mitaba to be Jeba Kiore, Jeba, then Jeba Power. Gumgu, then Gazam Chilian, Monsum, Najung was more you core. Dinajin Tawi Mitabada, Gaza de Merapoti, Damboto, Jeba. Then Gurjane, Gumgu, then Najung was more you do, Monsum more.
That's the explanation of the meditation on the core selflessness of persons. The way meditations are presented is in a way that's easy to understand, because once you have an understanding, you can apply it. And if one does apply it repeatedly over a sustained period, then you will progress to subtler and subtler levels. Having progressed to subtler levels, one is gaining ever more profundity in this realization. And eventually, one will come to a direct realization of the coarse selflessness of persons. So now let's relate this to some of the terminology in the text that we've heard, the terminology of Lorig. So the first moment of this direct realization will be a direct valid cognizer. And the second and subsequent moment will no longer be a valid cognizer, but will be subsequent cognizers because it's no longer new. So these are the first two of the sevenfold division of Lorig. We mentioned the seventh one before, on consciousness. Now these are the first and the third, valid cognizers, and the third being subsequent cognizers. But before one gains a direct valid cognizer, one attains an inferential valid cognizer. So that is still to come. Inferential valid cognizer, I think it's on page 8. And this comes long before a direct valid cognizer. So we currently on the page are direct valid cognizers, which has a yogic direct valid cognizer. But before one can gain a direct cognition, a direct valid cognizer, one needs an inferential valid cognizer. Once that has been achieved and one develops this progressively over time, eventually one's realization will no longer be through inference or through reasoning, but will be direct. Will be a direct valid cognizer. And when we gain a direct valid cognizer of core selflessness of persons, this will be a yogic direct valid cognizer. And its very first moment will be a yogic direct valid cognizer. Thereafterwards will be a yogic direct perceiver that is a subsequent cognizer. So that's the second division on page 5. A yogic direct perceiver that is a subsequent cognizer. The second and subsequent moments. That first moment of the direct realization of core selflessness of phenomena is a yogic direct perceiver that is a direct valid cognizer. The first division on page 5, which is the division we've been looking at the bottom of page 6. So that is the sequence that one goes through with the meditations. First starting out where we are now, and then slowly progressing through these various other divisions that Lorig presents. The yogic direct valid cognizers, then we have three divisions. We've now looked at the first two, subtle impermanence, core selflessness of persons, and now we come to the third, third object of a yogic direct valid cognizer, which is the subtle selflessness of persons.
So
we've looked at core selflessness of persons. So now we come to the third object of a yogic direct valid cognizer, subtle selflessness of persons. So what then is meant by subtle selflessness of persons as opposed to coarse selflessness of persons? So the subtle selflessness of persons can be expressed as the self being established, as the person being established. The person being established as the self, which means that it's not dependent on parts. The self is not dependent on aggregates. So the self not being dependent on aggregates, not dependent on parts, means that the self is established.
거롱은요 랑게위 다 제수주바 뭐보지 말레스 지난 풍보시 강사세 풍보다 강사디 풍보를 떼바래 차시를 떼바래 마도 차시라 마도 차시다 풍보 강라 마도 거롱은요 주되게 제수주베게 제수주바데 말레스 제리 안에 가데네 마두바텔라 강사다도 가서 강사다메 참모시고래.
But realizing that the self is dependent on parts, realizing that the self is dependent on its aggregates, this is the realization of subtle selflessness of persons.
풍보를 뛰고 풍보는 뭐 찍버려 마도 풍보는 뭐 태대비게 다 주요 말했어야지. 그래서 풍보를 뛰고 그랬어야 돼. 안 되니기 안 끼지 차실을 뛰고 그랬어야 돼. 대신 아주 다시 라와진이 주바스의 차실을 뛰어봤을 때 차실을 뛰어봤을 차실 지어로 네 차실을 뛰다 뭐 차실이 차실 뭐였는데 차실 라바로 채고래. 아주 그래서는 개와 아미 마기의 공기 안 아미 지식이 아마세 치마세 뭐였어야지 차시에야지 차시를 떼서 라바로 뭐송다 라바데 다데 디가서 차시에야지 차시라면 떼봐서 차시에 뭐송데 대식이 차시에 지단들 차시에 떼서 차르지고라 차와로 뭐송 거래 제가
We're hearing here that the realization of subtle selflessness of persons is realization that the self is dependent on parts, is dependent on its aggregates. So first to talk about this realization that the self is dependent on parts. So we've heard this now in both the coarse and subtle selflessness of persons. So in the first one, permanent, unitary and independent, the coarse selflessness. The second one, the second characteristic, that of being unitary or singular, to realize that it's empty of that means realizing that the self is dependent on parts. So we heard about parts then. So this realization that the self is dependent on parts is a coarser realization. So one would meditate that the self is dependent on parts, such the part that is birth, that is growing up, etc., these periods of a lifespan. Here, in the subtle selflessness of persons, one is referring to a realization that the self is dependent on parts, where the realization of parts, or the parts that are being understood, are far subtler than what was realized in the coarser realization, where the parts are coarser.
ina dina de nangsu ba jeba chidi kala ma zu dangbo ha go de gansa ran yi ko jeba chidi chama rakwa ne ba cha la jeba ja go go wa ben ma zu ge dangbo jeba chidi rakwa ti xin din ba cha din chama ti xin go go din zang an zu ge du jeba chidi rakwa de ha go de oda gansa se di这个点来民族身边上大的干啥人家特别是主把好过的rakwa的效果，但点来rakwa好过才起来，人家点了怕这个差这个人家弄出的了，这把去的差不多好多啊，才过了吧？
对，因为做刚才做so ganz dann Tagtücher Wanchen Nagiere, dann die Nipa kennen. Rangia Tupa. Alle kennen die Songs.
Niga Nangorwa. Nang do Kabla Nang Su Din Nang do Nang zu Jeba Chedu, du Jeba Rakwa ne, Dangbo Rakwa Hawa, then Pa Cha Hawa, Chisa, Denigi, Pa Jeba Chedu Kabla, and Rakwa de Hawa, the Kasa Rang to be Donga de Hawa, then Bana, Yahya and Chipa Jeba Chedu, and the Chamba Hawa to Chagro.
Then Dante kennen die Songs. Also ganza tramo toktu, denn die ganza Rangia Tupe sehr jöki kompere. Okay. So the more usual way of expressing the subtle selflessness of persons is that to realize that the person is empty of being self-sufficient, substantially existent. So that's the more usual way of expressing it. So I'll repeat that again. So the subtle selflessness of persons is realizing that the person is empty of being self-sufficient, substantially existent. And the way that the self appears to us is as being in these two ways, the coarse and subtle selflessness. It appears to us as being permanent, unitary, and independent. It appears to us as being self-sufficient, substantially existent. So it naturally appears to us in this kind of way. But there is a difference between these two in terms of their level of subtlety. So as one progresses in one's meditation, one comes first to coarser understandings that yes, the self doesn't exist in the way that it appears. And if one only leaves it at that, one's understanding remains very rough and therefore has a limited impact. Whereas if one continues, one will take the meditation down to subtler levels. And this is what is being implied here with these two degrees of subtlety between the coarse and subtle selflessness of persons. So as one progresses within one's meditation, one comes to see that the self may appear as permanent, unitary, and independent, and appear to us as being self-sufficient, substantially existent. But we come then to gain subtler understandings that it does not exist in the way that it appears.
풍보디 배시 당한 로지가 모달 마선의 모달 당한 제보 로지 아주게 풍보 배시 당한 로지다 아주 풍보의 원 유관 로지 아주 능거래 제가 디나와 나시도 지는 아주 심주 제대다 디네 가사디 가호도 스타데 나와 나시디 가호도 풍보들에 도에 민도 삼다에는 아주 풍보랑 빨다베네 가사디 나기도 랍도 아주 풍보들이야 나 차요도에네 가사데 나고래서야다 풍보대에 지 약보를 대부여네 근데 약보에 가사데 약보도 써야다 아두스네 파지데 풍보들에 되네 직샤 뭐 풍보들에 맞되겠네 가사데 샤메디가서 당아서 넘준시로다 미지 통지 어데 네 통화서서 그 풍보에 통화데 네 통화서来个그 풍보의 마통도 네 통화서来个봐 진짜 풍보들라 수기 풍보들 뛰어바로 채고래 다디 삼다나 rak바를 채고래 당봉어서 제바 제도값을 고수도 되는 거야.
네, 이거는 그냥 성의에 찍고면서 야저 간sak also semna kandus nangere 그냥 라테 투페스 앵야 덴퍼두파 그냥
덴퍼두파 키시오만 다도 두고 덴퍼두 키시오 풍보 나오도 간스 난거스네 간사디 풍보라 마되바 코롱 원에 두게 간사디기 풍보디 배시 당한 로지 모더마선의 모더 당한 제워로 난거래 제가 아주 풍보 배시 풍보들 원 유현지 조지 난거래 제가 So
in this meditation we come to see, we start out by seeing how does the self appear to us. And it appears to us as being something real, something established, independently, established from its own side. And then if we think about it a bit more, how it appears to us, it can be best understood through an analogy. The self naturally appears to us as if it's something separate from our physical and mental aggregates, as if it is the controller of our physical and aggregates. And an analogy would be in the same way as a driver is the controller of the car. The car goes where the driver directs it. This is how the self appears to us innately or naturally appears to us. It appears to us, the self appears to us as, or the person appears to us as if it is separate from the physical and mental aggregates and is the controller of the physical and mental aggregates. So that's the first step of the meditation, to see how the self appears to us. So generally when we talk about the self or the person, the I, we will talk about, in terms of ourselves, how am I feeling? I'm feeling a bit ill today, my body's not so good. Or we'd say, I'm feeling happy, my mind's in a good place. And this is generally how we talk and how we talk about the self. And when we talk about others, then if you'd say, have you seen someone? You say, yes, I saw her. And what are we basing this on? We saw her physical aggregate. So in dependence on seeing her physical aggregate, we say, I saw her. So this is how, in general, we talk about the self or the person.
nanglo phungpo de sugi phungpo da choyi phungpo duji phungpo number shi phungpo se de phungpo ngai na ne chasang ba ji de chowal pha sam de chasa nga debo du la de chowa degi chue na debo chue na nga debo du la go chowa du ngo ke da nga debo min du la go chasa du chi de phungpo chowa de le ngo lo so me de ken ka sa di denis ma do chowa de le ngo lo so ka sa chi min du chasa yenda chowa degi ke de nga debo du la ya ka min du chasa 나를 초와들에 뭐 로수 다세디 강사세디 민두와 선배기 되는 제바지야 책으로 와.
The self appears to us, when we think about the self, the way it appears to us is as if it is separate from the aggregates, the controller of the physical and mental aggregates. So we need to investigate if this is the case. We think to ourselves, so what happens if the physical and mental aggregates were eliminated or destroyed? What would happen then? So let's look at the aggregate. So if we take, say, the feeling aggregate. The feeling aggregate is how we often relate to ourselves. How are you? I'm happy. I'm not so happy. So this is the feeling aggregate. The self, though, is it separate other than this feeling aggregate? Because this is how the self appears. It appears as if it is not connected to the aggregates. It is in control of them. It is separate from the aggregates. It's different from them. But is that the case? So we look here. Is the self different from this feeling aggregate of happy, unhappy, and neutral?
And those in the shipsas, Jebacha, Kansamchilia, Danganzuki, Chisnadana, Zuki, Soa Deva Chune, Soa Dunga du Yudikable, Soa Deva du Yomartina, Nasa, the Kansachi Yutire, Chisna Soa Dunga Yudikable, Soa Deva du Yomartina. nga se de yo ka sa shi du ma sim ji ma chi de yi number sheba chamo ji yi number sheba ji de yi number sheba chamo de le lo so ngo de le lo so da ga sa se cha min du ji san ga sa se de yi number sheba chamo de le pa da ji de le de de ngo yi number sheba de ngo ye me ba ru xie xia ji de yi number sheba na chamo di ngo de le lo so ga sa se de min du a san be ge jie ba ji na ha go ya ji le yang du 지사다 가사세디 풍보 나니다 수기 풍보나 초이 풍보 두시보 풍보에 차라망고 전에 타마 타쇼 이긴 남시 참어 풍보 넘버 10 풍보 넘버 10 풍보 딜레고 로솜 가사세디 두바스 자오기니 민두 선배 통화도 아니 가사세디 아니 가서래 풍보라마도 랑원이 두바세디 매바데 하고도 보이서라
타마레 랑케
Tama, Gaza, that is Ranja to Situba, Ranja to be Situba City, Ranja to be the Pumbola Madeba, Koron, Mini, Jutu Sigurwa, Chisada do Maji, that Gaza, Jeba, Tame Tajola, Tama de la Jeba, E number Sheba, Tamo D, Mole, Loso, Gaza said Mindu. Chizan, E number Sheba, Tamo, Titango, Chibichiga, E number Sheba, Tamo said, Deba Mato, Delamatu Bigida, Pumbo Delamatu Big, Da said, Zawa said, Zin, Guinea, Midu, Sembe Tono, and then Gaza Ranja to be to Don said, how could better.
This meditation then starts out by seeing how the self appears to us, and we said that it appears as if it is the controller of the physical and mental aggregates. And now we investigate, is that really the case? Because if the physical and mental aggregates were destroyed, would we talk about the self in the same way? And I mentioned one of the aggregates, that of aggregate of feeling. To see, is the self separate from that? But if we the feeling aggregate is the feeling of happiness or suffering, then we say, I am happy, I am suffering. So we can't really say that the self is separate from, is other than, is different from the feeling aggregate. And similarly then, we go through all 5 aggregates. But just to present this in brief, where this usually comes down to is the consciousness aggregate. consciousness then has many different levels of subtlety. And when one comes down to the subtlest level of the subtlest mental consciousness, can we really say that the self, which appears to be the controller of the aggregates and separate from the aggregates, is separate other than this subtle mental consciousness? We'll come to see that actually it is indivisible, indistinguishable from this subtle mental consciousness. It's not separate from it, it's not different from it, it's not other than it. And in this way, we come to realize that the self is empty of subtle selflessness. We come to realize that the self is empty or void of being self-sufficient, substantially existent. Rather, it is dependent. It's dependent on its aggregates, in other words, on parts. It is dependent on causes and conditions. So here we come to realize subtle selflessness of persons, realizing that the self is void or empty of being self-sufficient, substantially existent, in other words, something other than separate from the aggregates. Rather, it's dependent on them, and it's dependent on parts and causes and conditions.
Denegi gansa du cheba cheje da gansa sa de phungbo chasho number shibi phungbo chamon dele madubige dele maduba koran rangwene madubi ko rangja tuba chi mindu dele rangja tuba mindu beja cheza deniji mindu simbe tongdu gansa rangyu tsutsuri tonga sa de doorwa rangja tubige 남실라 마디비게 랑기 투비게 자와기네 민도와 심베 가서 통해도 가사 랑기 투비스 주바 동화도 통화래 니또비 당보 또비게 제바지네 당보하고 걸로디 다 제바 참아서 최고래 데네 디네마 기진이 바스 지시 샤루고 지시 다 디네게 지시 차네 다 데네 미네 다 디네게 가사 다메 바딜 미네 신이 주보래 신이 주 아니 신이 주네 신이 주 차베 차서나 디체리아 아니 냐 신이 디가네 되니게 다음에 될 미별 하동주 되네 하동주네 하동주 차네 디 야네 야도 야네 곰 여도 가슴질이야 되니게 다음에 또 비기 다음에 또 비 실라 손데디 다음에 봐도 무슨 용어가 차르고로 무슨 용어가 차로도 아니 나중 무슨세 차와리 다 가사 다음에 참어도 비 나중 무슨세 차와리 시네
So when one comes to realize that the self is not something that is a controller of the aggregates despite appearing as such and is therefore empty of being something other separate from the aggregates, that is the realization that of subtle selflessness of persons, realizing that the self is not self-sufficient, it is not substantially existent, but rather it is dependent on parts and causes and conditions. So this, when one comes to gain this realization, one then starts to develop calm abiding on relation to this object. So one realizes the subtle selflessness of persons, and then one starts to develop. I missed out a step here. Sorry. When one first realizes the subtle selflessness of persons, this is an inferential valid cognizer. So this is one of the sevenfold division that we'll come to is on page 8, and that, but only the very first moment is the inferential valid cognizer. The second and subsequent moments of that realization are subsequent cognizers. So that again is one of the types of mind that are included in the sevenfold division. Having gained that realization, this inferential valid cognition, one then starts to develop calm abiding, the mind of single points of concentration, on the object, which is the realization of the subtle selflessness of persons. And then when one eventually realizes calm abiding now on this subtle object, one then is able to hold this realization single-pointedly, but one is not able to continue to analyze whilst holding it single-pointedly. So then one develops meditative insight in relation to, which is that analytical mind, in relation to this realization. And eventually one is able to both have meditative insight and calm abiding together at the same time on this realization of subtle selflessness of persons. That is when one has the union of calm abiding and meditative insight on subtle selflessness of persons, meaning one can continue to analyze, use meditative insight, whilst holding the object single-pointedly, calm abiding. So one has them in union. When that is the case, one continues now to meditate on the subtle selflessness of persons repeatedly, and one eventually then gets to the point where one is no longer realizing the subtle selflessness of persons, independence, or by means of a meaning generality, but one can come to realize it directly. And this is when one gives rise to a direct perceiver, which is a yogic direct perceiver, and that yogic direct perceiver realizing the subtle selflessness of persons, the very first moment is the valid cognizer, and the second and subsequent moments, subsequent cognizers. So those are the divisions then that we saw on the top of page 5.
당보 가지고 또야지 당보 가서 때문에 참아이나다 라바이나다 미다바이나다 가서 당보 제바 또야지 제바 체마스기 거래 제바 체마래 이 제바 체마 또 와서네 기진이 반에 가지고 지시해야 차고 지시해야 차고 당가지고 당보디 로릭 뒤나네 로릭이 바 제바 체마지 얘네 기진이 반마 숨바 시바가 제바도 좋으네 이 나중에 좀 맞아봐도 안 지시 원이 거래 지도 당가지고 제바 지시사죠 로리 뒤는 지시사차로 그래. 다들 마제 두스디야 공공전들네 나중에 송 오르도 야경 참아차로 나중에 무슨 참아차로 그래. 단 나중에 무슨 참아 기지니바래 아 지시래다. 야니바 지시야 제대 상기 오 남긴 마셔봐도 군지 시세 마셔봐도 지시차로. 군지 시차로 야 참아차로 그래.
So, sitting here, we are all ordinary beings. We are not yet Aryas, but this meditation is something as ordinary beings we need to engage in. As we gain greater familiarity of these various components, the course first of subtle impermanence, then coarse selflessness, and then subtle selflessness of persons, we will eventually give rise to an inferential valid cognition in relation to the subtle selflessness of persons. So we all have some realization of this, some understanding of this. And as we develop this understanding, eventually we will give rise to an inferential valid cognizer, realizing the subtle selflessness of persons. So this is when we have an inferential valid cognizer. Then, but this only lasts a single moment. The second moment is a subsequent cognizer. So again, I'm using these terms again and again so that we're starting to get familiar with this language of Lorig, because they will come up again later, as some of them have come up previously already. So the first moment that realizes a subtle selflessness of persons is an inferential valid cognizer. The second and subsequent moments are subsequent cognizers, and each time we meditate on the subtle selflessness of persons and realize it, this remains a subsequent cognizer. Every time we meditate, it remains a subsequent cognizer until we go through this whole process, as was mentioned earlier, with calm abiding and meditative insight, and we eventually come to the point where we give rise to a yogic direct perception, which is now a direct perception, so it's a direct realization. Now no longer an inferential valid cognizer, or the subsequent cognizer of that, but it's now a yogic direct perception. And this is when we fulfill this definition on the top of page 5, sorry, and we are now an Arya being. We are now an Arya being. But the very first moment of this yogic direct perception is the valid cognizer, which is defined at the bottom of page 6. Only the very first moment. Each and every subsequent moment to that is again a subsequent cognizer. And that's the subsequent cognizer is the second of the two divisions, again, on the top of page 5. And this realization of subtle selflessness of persons will remain a yogic, a subsequent cognizer that is a yogic direct perceiver until one becomes a Buddha, until one gives rise to the omniscient consciousness. It's only then that one again will have a valid cognition of the subtle selflessness of persons. So these are then the three key points or stages where one has a direct perception, first an inferential valid cognizer, then a yogic direct valid cognizer, and only later when one is a Buddha, again a valid cognizer of subtle selflessness of persons. The other times were subsequent cognitions.
ane chigi mitaba samdamba na an jan la mi pe chadang ke pa ya la chagore andi ma se shen simjel mi che mitaba samdamba na chaza rang la mitaba mi samdamba de rang la ni chun ke ba na shen simjel mi ne mitaba samdamba na ti shen simjel ya jamje da ni che ke le ya ane pando yong ko de andi na shen tang a ju ka sa da me zhaba tang ka sa da me 참어 되지 삼다다 두신 삼당은 제바지에 삼당이나 근데 나중에 지발에다 지다 소소래 나와 나신 가서 나와 나신 다다 책임인데 제사디 나와 나신 다가 레샤서 짐바이나 로데 로시에샤 지단 디 짐바 진제 하는 나중에 로제스다게 차상 차상기에 되게 요하디 디 연구도 진행자 근데 디니 콤바이나 아니 건설에 차상기에 용도야다 아니 시행을 미네 시행심절을 미네 아니 가사랑제 투비세서 마주바다 안 다도 마주바 rak바다 참모디도 공부이나 안 시행심전디기네 규단기 차실을 떼어보면 가라이 마도 랑원도 좀 매바 섬동에도 안 시행을 미비기 아니 잠바도 제와기야 돼 개발 연구로와 안 잠재 주야게 판도 연구를 시선 디네자 내가 저기 대시 제바나 삼다나 야네 양통아서 가도 지도에 디네 삼다 제바지야 되게 좀 최고래.
Then we've looked at then these three meditations that on subtle impermanence, coarse and subtle selflessness of persons. So these are of particular importance to do. And we should start the meditation by reflecting on ourselves, reflecting on the impermanence of this life. And, then 나초 고속도 나초 주메 답하기 거라 나초랑 미답하기 나초 양 닥치 그랑왕체 나초 양 데리디수마. Okay. So we start by reflecting on death and impermanence, the impermanence of our life. So the meditation starts with us in the first person, reflecting on the impermanence of our life. Then we can look at the two meditations on selflessness, reflecting that we have this feeling that we are permanent, that we are single, that we are independent, as explained earlier. Do we exist in this way? So we do these the 3 points here, impermanence and the coarse and subtle selflessness, in relation to ourselves. We can also then take the meditation on, in particular on impermanence, to outer objects, phenomena in the world, seeing that the way we relate to phenomena in the world is also as if they were permanent, and can come to gain a clear understanding that they too are in their nature impermanent because they change momentarily and are dependent on causes and conditions. And the purpose then of doing this meditation, first in relation to ourselves, with all 3 aspects, of impermanence and selflessness, as well as in relation to outer objects, is so as to develop a truer understanding, an understanding that is in accordance with reality. And this then has a profound impact on us. in that we come to see why we are trapped in suffering. We come to see, understand suffering more clearly as causes, and that freedom from it is possible. And this is because we're coming to realize in ever greater profundity that phenomena, whether it's our self or outer phenomena, appear to us in a particular way as being permanent, unitary, and independent. And they don't exist in this way. But because we grasp at them as existing in this way, this grasping is a wrong consciousness. And this leads to all our resulting afflicted minds. And now we see that these afflicted minds result from a wrong consciousness. But now we are developing wisdom. From wisdom is of course not a wrong consciousness and therefore doesn't lead to afflicted minds. Therefore we see we can achieve liberation from suffering because we're seeing that the causes of suffering can be eliminated through the development of this wisdom. This leads to strong yearning for freedom from liberation because we see that it's possible, and we know that it's possible because we've clearly identified the causes for suffering as well as the causes for liberation from suffering. This leads to the rise of the mind of definite emergence, the commitment to strive for liberation from suffering. And that, when it arises in an uncontrived manner, is the attainment of a first path. Then the next step that we take this meditation, so we started out with reflecting on the impermanence of this life, and then we looked at selflessness, and we also looked then at outer phenomena. Now we relate these experiences to others, seeing that others too, all other sentient beings, are impermanent. Sentient beings though, ordinary sentient beings, grasp at phenomena as existing in the way that they appear to them, so that as their own self, as well as outer phenomena, as being permanent, unitary and independent, as being self-sufficient, substantially existent. And therefore, due to their own wrong consciousnesses, they keep creating causes of suffering. They keep creating causes that lead to disappointment, that lead to pain and misery. Seeing this then, love and compassion for others arise within us. So in this way then, we're starting to create love and compassion, and we can use this as a basis to develop bodhicitta. So that's the way then to progress in this meditation. The results that come from this is as we develop our wisdom, seeing that phenomena do not exist in the way that they appear, therefore we grasp at them, we start to grasp at them less as existing in the way they appear, and therefore the resulting afflicted minds from the wrong consciousness weaken and become less frequent. That then leads us to having more happiness too. Moreover, love and compassion for others is arising. So what we're doing is we're developing wisdom, love and compassion, and in a direct proportion to the strength of these virtuous minds, the opposing afflicted minds, such as self-cherishing, attachment, anger, they weaken. And we thereby are able to have a greater impact or greater beneficial impact on the lives of others too. So these are some of the immediate results that come from engaging in this meditation repeatedly over a sustained period. We'll conclude here for the morning. If you have some questions, then we have time, so please ask. This afternoon we will start with over the page with the next section, facsimiles, or perhaps better translated similitudes, of a direct perceiver. So if you have some questions, then yes, Cameron.
Just early on there, just the term uncompounded space. Does that refer to space that is without obstruction?
Sure. So can you say a bit more about uncompounded space? Yeah? Does it refer to space without obstruction?
Or just lack of obstruction? Does that refer to lack of obstruction?
Okay. Duma cheki namka. De kadere. So det kan det kong ja på kon de ka tu shu song de mang wa lap ka.
Duma jige namga labdu duma je labdu azu ji du lamna gyudan ke mangbo du se anjwa le du se la ro du ne ne je ba de sa mi mangbo du ne la se ba de sa choro wa tina shin gyudan ke mangbo ji du ne anji je go chwa de le du je la ro du ma je la de gyudan ke mangbo du ka ma te ba che je yo ba che la du ma che se ro ma te ba de gyudan ke la ma te ba de chi sa de ne zam du ma je gyudan ke la ma te ba da ba na dong ba de ge da an 반나요 동바디 뒤마치레 지금 딱 봐도 저 동바디 네 규단 kiến起来 对呢 동바 차겨 말고 규단 kiến了 맞죠 봐 걸 예리 같이 돼지 지단 kiến了 맞죠 지단 뒤마치셔야 돼 딱바디 딱바셔야 돼 디세 벤 체질 마서나 아주 반나요 동바디 뒤마치라도 규단 kiến 기 뒤체 중화 많이 봐 생각다 돈다리로
디고서 되니 die als helper then die duma chayina then die kakpa sergi mare kaza die chala yeme do together
endur do to ra duma ta di duma chege namga takpa se de takpa duma chi namga se de dongpa chengi kaya ka me pa do to duma chi namga se se ta duma je ina ga to ya pa do ha yi bi nge ba yo ma ga dongpa ni se de duma che ro ba.
So in brief, the answer is yes. Uncompounded space means phenomena are not obstructed, they're movement, so it's not obstructed. And the meaning of uncompounded means it didn't come together in dependence on causes and conditions. Because compounded is a synonym for impermanent. It means coming together in dependence on causes and conditions. This is a permanent phenomenon, hence it hasn't come about in dependence on causes and conditions. So that's the meaning of uncompounded. That's uncompounded, it hasn't come about in dependence on causes and conditions, and the function is that phenomena can move in an unobstructed manner.
Is there such a thing then as compounded space?
Okay, so is there such a thing as compounded space? Dumaje ki namka yona, duje ki namka yope.
Duje ki namka lag mare. Duje ki namka la do dongpa sa chi ko namka se de disiurwa.
So no, there is not. No, there is not. So uncompounded space means empty, not like emptiness, but empty. So yeah, and there isn't therefore compounded space.
The question, the reason I asked the question is that, for instance, the propagation of a wave, for instance, through a solid material, is facilitated by the material itself. So effectively the space of the material is actually the compounding of the space.
Okay, I can't translate scientific terms into Tibetan, I have no idea what they are. So a wave I could use like for an ocean wave, but that's not really the idea, yeah? So,
yeah.
So
sort of thing, an ocean wave.
I don't have, there is scientific terminology from English is translated into Tibetan. I don't know this. Okay, so I can only then give you that answer and hope then that you can take it in with your scientific knowledge and understand. Okay, sorry. Yes?
In the text and in the Heart Sutra, where it says all the objects of sense consciousness, and then it says and phenomena. So the phenomena, I just want to clear this for my own thought. Does that mean impermanent and permanent? Or what does it mean? What is the word and phenomena?
Yeah, where in the Heart Sutra?
The others are impermanent. The objects of say the eye sense consciousness is one. And phenomena. And this and phenomena.
I'm not finding...
In the Heart Sutra?
Yeah, I'm not finding and phenomena. I'm just doing a word search. I'm not finding and phenomena. Because if I'm going to say to...
It's down where it says no eye, no ears, no eyes.
Okay. No eyes, no ears.
I just want to clear that because every time I see it, I get...
No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. Okay, there we go. No phenomenon.
Emptiness, there's
So your question's, and no phenomenon?
No, I want to know what phenomena is. Is it just inclusive of permanent and impermanent?
Okay. Dini sherp ningpo nangla drum mepa dream mepa draw mepa recta mepa dini chur mepa chitena chur mepa de kari segede di tapa da mitapa ni yamana chur mepa ne
tapa da mitapa kari ine rashi tuba yo marela ore temba tuba yo marela ore dine su me tame suk temba tuba yo marela temba tuba yo marela ore dinashin anada chue se de takpa da takpa maingi chue su maingi chue mongbo ore di chaza ane temba tuba re di suyan temba tuba marela ore chido chue se chue nalo ya duje yore dumaje takpa chaza re.
So, yes, your understanding is correct. So, all phenomena refers to all phenomena, whether impermanent or permanent. No phenomenon exists truly. All phenomena, whether permanent or impermanent, are empty of true existence. So, yes. Yeah?
I think you answered.
Okay, good.
I'll just leave it.
Okay, if it comes up later, then do ask. Okay, and sure. Andy?
When you're looking at the self as not being the controller, and you said, so you look at different aggregates, and you got down to the subtlest mind, the very subtle mind, and you said that you come to realise that the self is not different from the subtlest mind, but it is different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not even the same type of impermanent phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand.
Okay. So so we're seeing that the self is the controller of the aggregates, and when we investigate, we come down to the subtle mental consciousness, and we see that they are of the same essence, they're the same entity. Yeah?
I didn't say that, but okay.
Okay, what did I say?
You said they're just not different from...
Okay, yeah, they are not different, sure. So what does that mean? Because they are different.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Then rankia tupe zeyo tompa de kola samdu. Gansa rankia tupe zeyo tompa samdu. Then nato yigi number sepe trusting tramo de nato gansa dang loka mare. Yini konso loka re, algo tomso.
Moji bareshi, mo loga mare. Ine yigi number sepe de shebarwa. gansa khura dimiti jira khuni khagare ine ngoji bare se yi number shi bi ngole lo so da gansa se di yo mare se
ngo mare de kanga kana
yi number sheba di shebarwa gansa se dimiti je khuni khagare ine ya ngoji bare se ngoji bare se.
The self or the person and the subtle and mental consciousness are different. The person is a non-associated composite, and the mental consciousness is consciousness. So they are different. In essence, they are the same. In essence, they are not different. Yeah? In essence, they are not different. Their entity or their essence is not different, but one is consciousness and one is a non-associated composite. But in essence, they are not different.
Because of emptiness.
Karite? Karite koso nika tompa ni rebe.
Nika tompa ni de wa didi re tompa ni de de.
Ni de gyutsen rebe.
Gyumse tompa ni bi gyumse shigo ma.
Den gyutsen karere?
Moji re se de gyumse karela na dadem tu gansa ti pa jeba che de shebi ngo le lo su gansa ji ye yo ma re. 其实你让我觉得下手了，这把这的也没得，随便我的老鼠干啥些的也要嘛的，你要嘛的哇。
Goso, deni dupla goma pena thank you pa konso gyutsen tompaniere se kerebe.
Di yan di dupla goma la ji shi ka shi lo, da de na ji shi lo wa.
So here we're not talking about emptiness because of the tenant. Yeah, we're not talking about emptiness. Hence, it hasn't come up. But the reason that they are said to be of one essence is because a different essence cannot be found. So because a different essence cannot be found, they are therefore of the same essence. Essence or entity, yeah?
Sorry, so this is about how to investigate it not being the controller.
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's
yes, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Dada diga su shebyu nadi dumda sosoran de so samda miras ligo kasa damit. Dadi diga su shebyu kala doji baina 이 나바시바 참아 고는 가사 레를 거다. 진짜 이 나바시바 참아 되다 가사 이 지금 뭐 로스요 말에 이 나바시바 참아 고는 가사에 천신을 손에 이 나바시바 참아도 뭐 손도라고.
This presentation, this text is composed from the Sarjantika point of view. So the different Buddhist philosophical tenets will have different explanations, especially here. Remember though, the Sarjantika, they say there is a person and this is it. So when they're saying this isn't different from the person, it's because there is a person that exists. Yeah, that is findable.
Okay. So when you say the essence, you're talking about matter. Form.
We're talking about matter, okay?
Form.
Okay. So just for English, I'll ask the question. Essence and entity, whatever works better, it's both translations are used, but does the essence being the same, does it mean it's matter? Yeah? Or form. Yeah. Then ngowo chikpa lapna de konso ngowo de bempo rebe.
뭐 뱀보 말 수마르와. 뱀보에는 수행 거 말.
Then
어디 메디지레람들 이거는.
okay. It's not form. It's not matter because matter is form. It's a non-associated composite. Dekarire. Dekarire.
데미지레시.
Dekarire.
데미지레라는데 딜하셔야 말다 데미지레라. 데미지레라 수단 셰바 가야 마잉이 뒤지지요. 와릴 데미지레라고.
Ja, also Mittag bei Jevajena, der Sumyore, dene dere.
셰바야 마잉게 아니 수야 마잉게 뒤지기 최대라 데미지레라고.
So what is a non-associated composite? So if we take impermanent phenomena, it's all impermanent phenomena 1 or 3. It's either matter or consciousness, matter, consciousness, or other. And the other is called non-associated composites. Composites, compounded, because it's impermanent, and it's not associated with the other two. So in other words, it's the third category. And that's where some things such as this are placed. So when you ask what is it, it's impermanent and it's not consciousness or matter, it is the other category, and that is called non-associated composites. Sure.
So are you saying that they're mutually dependent, self and consciousness?
Self and consciousness, are they mutually dependent? Yeah. Gansak dan Shepa, pelce di Chasin Shepa Chasin Chamadi, Conso Conso Pentun Kali Chikla Shenla Turpa Rebe.
Distingo.
Yes, they're mutually dependent. Okay, good. Yes, Anna, good.
I'm just thinking of an analogy, which might not be right. I might not be ascertaining it correctly. Is it a bit like anatomy and physiology where your liver is independent, but it still doesn't exist unless the other parts of the body exist?
Mm-hmm. So can we use the analogy of like an organ such as the liver? It is it's independent, but it is also it's dependent. It exists, but it's dependent on the rest of the body and its other parts working together. Yeah.
It doesn't have its own identity.
Yes.
Without everything else.
Okay. Then it pets in the duge. So one po chick pena so chimpa. So chimpa. Supo nanglo wambo chimpa de. The Ming Chik Tak Tugere, the Chingpa, Ming Tagiore, the Chikse, Yine, Supo Chatsang, Latengiore, Supo Gi Wampo, Dang Supo Gi Yenlaka, Chasi Tama Maduna, then he de Yomade, Kiemano, Kiano Yomade, did it, then he Chikla Chik Tengiore.
Dingo.
Absolutely, that's a good illustration. Correctly ascertained.
Yeah.
Yes? No, that's good.
But it's written that consciousness will continue no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
It's independent.
So consciousness
You're
will...
saying that the liver depends on parts of the body, therefore that and consciousness are dependent.
Yes.
Consciousness will exist no matter what.
Yes, so if I understand correctly, is consciousness not independent because it will always exist?
No, I'm saying, I might have misheard with my hearing, but you said the liver is part, liver is part, then consciousness and that are one, they're dependent on each other. So is that what you were saying? No, not really. You have to speak up. It's hard for me because when people ask questions, I can't do it.
Okay.
So we leave it at that.
Yeah, okay. But
I misheard.
no. Then I'll say it again. So the liver is dependent on parts. It's not independent. For example, the various parts of the body, they all need to be accumulated for the liver to be a liver. It would never have been produced without the rest of it. So in this way, we can see that the liver is dependent on parts, all those other parts, yeah? And then similarly, we can, so that was just the question. And then towards consciousness, it would also be dependent on its parts. It would need its parts. Its parts, the parts that would relate to consciousness. Okay. Ja, am so kyopo. Dene di driwa yankia lapin, dene kalen yankia lapin, dene sapode. Okay, thank you.